I'm going to introduce our final speaker, who is someone I truly admire for a project he's done, which is called IAmTranshuman. Well, hashtag IAmTranshuman. David Kelley is a senior architect for the Boston Consulting Group Product Platform Program and Artificial General Intelligence Lab principal scientist. David has worked for some of the top CEOs and companies in the world and has coded for 35 years. From being a high-level manager of global organizations to highly focused teams, David has a history, and that history is a showcase of projects in the tech sector, from Bill Gates' keynotes, Emmy Awards, Nike Touch Wall in New York City, 8 years awarded the most valuable industry professional in software engineering using MS technologies. Thank you, David, and I look forward to your talk.
Thank you, Natasha. So my name is David Kelley, as Natasha said, and I'm the Chief Software Architect for the Omnia Product Group at the Boston Consulting Group. And in additionally, I'm the lead researcher at the AGI laboratory. And finally, I'm a transhumanist. And my talk today is on the psychology of abundance. Let me note a couple of things before I get started regarding some of what my colleagues have previously mentioned, as they are relevant to this talk. One was Natasha suggested focusing on our area of expertise, or where our niche is. And two, Zoltan mentioned doing whatever it takes to succeed. And these two comments really get to the heart of my talk's point. Remember, the longer it takes us to achieve some of our goals on the transhumanist agenda, the more people die. So let me dive into my talk on the psychology of abundance. While I live with a shrink and I'm best friends with a transhumanist psychologist from Europe, I'm not an expert in psychology, but I'm more of a patient, given me being on the spectrum and all. In fact, what I know professionally is only tangentially related to psychology. Where I tend to focus on the technical, and having been described at times as a technocrat. And so it is fair to ask, why the psychology of abundance? My response is a bit long-winded, but that is in fact the talk and my message of hope that I'll now share. So let's lay out the facts as I see them. Our civilization is built on human psychology, specifically our psychology, and that all of those who have passed before us. One of the most obvious examples, in my opinion, that is a product of this psychology is money. What is money? Why does it have value? It has value because we say it does, and we believe it does. It's an arbitrary, made-up medium of exchange that helps us manage resources, among other things. And nowadays, it isn't even backed up with anything like gold or silver. My point is that things are as they are because we've decided it, and we as a society have acted as if it was fact, which in the case of money makes it fact, for no other reason than our psychology. Large parts of our society are still based on scarcity thinking. Many Western European countries have had a psychology of scarcity since the end of World War II, but scarcity leads to tension, which in turn results in conflict and other problems. When we could choose a psychology of abundance, or even superabundance, see a number of books on this topic, and let go of this emotional baggage we collectively have. Abundance is a choice we can work towards. That is not to say that someone already in a dire situation might not have a way out, in which case we need to help them, but we as a society certainly do have a way out, and we can help. We can choose a better course. Our preconceived notions of how things should be drive us, and through changing our perspective and overcoming humanity's bias, we can overcome our psychology and develop a new one as we accept how things are. We can decide how we are going to interact with the state in which we find ourselves. The United States after World War II, in some ways, historically followed a psychology of abundance, meaning that there was a prevalent belief that opportunities are plentiful, and it is up to each individual to take advantage of them. Success or failure is determined by the individual. This sort of thinking is not what I mean, as it frequently leaves people out that just can't do it otherwise. We can be our brother's keeper in that we can help those that struggle to help themselves. There is an almost infinite relative amount of resources, and there is no reason we can't help uplifting those around us if they so desire. If you wander around the internet, you might find a few things you can do to have an abundance mindset. One such example I found listed 7 things you can do to have such a mindset, including thinking big versus thinking small. I might add learning not to confine oneself, but revel in the diversity of ideas helps. Number 2, plenty versus lack. Number 3, happiness versus resentment. Embracing change versus fear of change. Being proactive versus reactive. And lastly, having a mindset of learning versus knowing it all. But we really want more than that. We want superabundance. And as it so happens, there are a few transhumanist books on the topic, such as Sustainable Superabundance by David Wood, who spoke earlier. But how do we get there as a species? Superabundance for humanity is a decision we all must make, not how do we help those around us work to, let me say that again, but how do we help those around us to work to that end? This really gets back to where we started, or rather, where I laid the groundwork in the talk for where we go from here, and why I chose the topic, IAmTranshuman and a Psychology of Abundance. As you may or may not know, I work in the computer science field, and Natasha suggested I've focused on the area in which I've shown some measure of talent. One of the things I have spent a good part of my life doing is in the area of artificial general intelligence. For those familiar with my work, you might note that I've taken a very radical approach to AGI system design in working on cognitive architectures. We stumbled upon the fact that humanity has super intelligence now. It's not self-aware, nor is it even consistently present, but at times in integrated groups, humans are capable of super intelligence in these same groups. Yes, I recognize there's lots of problems with this in a natural sense, such as groupthink or any number of 188 plus biases that are hardwired into the human mind, but it is provable and demonstratable. It occurred to me to use our lab, instead of just creating toy AGI systems to test theories, we could build a hive mind, also known as a collective mind, using architecture designed for AGI, but implementing additional infrastructure within what we know how to do. It's not just e-governance, but e-governance built on cognitive architectures designed to force superintelligence to emerge. And on our results so far, an artificial superintelligence with humans in the loop that turns out to be an easier problem than independent AGI. So I designed what we call a mediated artificial superintelligence, which is essentially a toy, fully working AGI system with a group of machine learning systems that feed into it, and humans helping build emotion-based models to train the system dynamically on the fly, so it can make independent choices based on how it feels about things and develop goals and interests and such like any other proper AGI or person. In this case, however, we can audit every action and decision, and to some degree, it is just not capable of being independent of the support structure. But we get a kind of superabundant thinking, superintelligence governance system out of the gate that is in itself a hive mind that we generate, that is arguably self-aware, being both sapient and sentient. At least there's research evidence to support that theory. I'm not going to get into the science behind it here, but if you're interested, there are many published papers and books with information about the research we've published and are doing, and you're welcome to check those out. My point was that in working with this collective mind system we built, we'd been asking questions of it and seeing what ideas it might come up with. One of those ideas was to drive more of a sense of togetherness in related communities, and being transhumanists, or most of us at the lab in any case, working with the MASI system. So we kind of went from there. And the system, when the system was asked to think about transhumanism as a particular demographic, the machine suggested we utilize the brand IAmTranshuman as a way of producing the most inclusive and open outreach program to drive transhumanists together within the resources we have. In a very real way, the idea for the site comes from the MASI system, and it's having self-identified this as a way of driving non-controversial community, the system identified the fact that IAmTranshuman was not just a good idea, but that the domain was available and that it was not otherwise being used effectively from an SEO standpoint. But what does that mean? IAmTranshuman was conceived as an idea that can bring various transhumanists together regardless of their focus, at least in the fact that they call themselves transhumanists, in a method of fostering community, togetherness, and passion around transhumanist ideas in general. It is not any one particular flavor of transhumanism, but the idea that we can together improve our experience for everyone. To quote the site, it is about raising the awareness about the values we share and the human rights to live and love indefinitely. In developing this idea, we learned how to tie this into the psychology of abundance, as it is one thing to drive abundance psychology through community and the like, but at the same time, entirely something else to make it real and drive it into the corporate world. If it's one thing that matters to me, it's tangible results. Something I think I have in common with Zoltan that I can touch. And this is something that I could touch metaphorically. IAmTranshuman was our way of applying our skills to AI to create something that that could be used to help drive community in transhumanism and thus help disseminate a more consistent transhumanism vision in all that we do. Granted, it would help if more than one of the 15 people on our research team knew what the Facebook was, but we have to work with what we have. So let me tell you a story about how we think technology, like what we're working on, could be used to create superabundance. What would happen if a positive, focused, mid-sized corporation with a strong ethical and moral backbone adopted a collective intelligence system and remade itself through a digital transformation around that sort of e-governance system into something new? Imagine an organization becomes sort of a collective intelligence, a superorganism or a meta-organism, or like with transhumanist ideals baked into it. This organization not only would be a collectively self-aware, but at the same time also an extension of the employees. Maybe in the space of a year, the company becomes the most competitive in its field, quickly implementing automation, numerous time-saving practices, creating better strategies, executing faster, removing groupthink, filtering out bias, and otherwise outstripping traditional companies. At the same time, the company is more profitable, more efficient, less effort intensive on the part of the employees, and the employees to grow to be more like a family as they become part of a meta-organism working closely together. As a result, the firm values its employees as they are literally part of a living meta-organism. This helps ensure success, raising retention rates for employees to nearly 100%. And so the meta-organism starts implementing numerous programs to help improve employees' lives, their standard of living, including covering various costs, whether it's banking and currency support, or maybe new homes as a perk. Virtually everything the company provides, because it is able to optimize the happiness and effectiveness of its now truly valued employees, is an extension of itself. This transformation effectively results in a meta-organism that is a collective superintelligence and provides superabundance for its constituent members. A corporation emotionally invested in the well-being of itself, its people, and the surrounding environment. What would happen if other companies adopted such a model? A revolution that could help uplift humanity to deal with modern issues and help humanity transcend the difficulties we face now and in the future. This is a reality we can make real by choice. Superabundance is not just imagination or an abstract concept, but something actionable that if enough people embrace this mindset, we could do it. But it requires action by each of us in our small way, moving the idea forward, spreading the idea, helping humanity grow beyond the Neolithic thinking of our ancestral species to embrace something new, something transhuman. At some point, there would be a tipping point, and we as a species would grow up in a world of superabundance, one where we take care of each other and take the yoke off of our past in the psychology of scarcity. It was stated in the book, Sustainable Superabundance, it's time for action. So we're taking action. What are you doing? Embracing transhumanism is a choice, and one that on whole can help us improve the lives of those around us and help them embrace the psychology of abundance. You don't have to do grandiose things or write books or give speeches or start companies and the like, but you can take action, from your vote to advocacy and education to volunteering or any number of other tasks. Your action matters. It's when we all take action as a movement that real action towards superabundance will happen. Thank you for your presence, time, and attention. And that's my talk.
Thank you so much, David. I've got some questions for you. First of all, I would like to ask you more about your project, IAmTranshuman, and how does it offer a psychology of abundance?
Well, the thinking with IAmTranshuman is about getting everyone to pedal in the same direction. If you look at group dynamics, you have this idea of storming, norming, and performing. And one of the key elements of IAmTranshuman was to kind of get everyone pedaling in the same direction, so we can talk about the psychology of superabundance and the other elements of the transhumanist agenda.
Next question. In your view, could hoarding be a psychology or hive mind for anti-abundance?
Well, yes, it could be. I think there's a lot of things that people do that really break down the psychology of abundance, and that really gets into a lot of the problems with humans that are baked in. It's not that we can't decide to do the right thing, but the human mind has a lot of biases, and many of those cause things like behaviors that when you're in a fearful mindset, or there's a mindset of scarcity, you start doing things like hoarding, or we see the results with this whole COVID. I go down to the store and there's no toilet paper, or there's no Diet Coke, or whatever it is, and that comes from that what I would say is psychology of scarcity that we want to pull ourselves out of.
Where does this psychology of scarcity comes from, and do you think that AGI could help us overcoming this psychology of scarcity?
Well, I think yes, AGI can help do that, and that's a lot of what's going into the MASI research, is learning how to filter out bias. And like, for example, if you apply e-governance at a corporate level, where instead of people going in and hashing it out and playing politics, you abstract that a little bit so that the machine makes the decision. So there's less infighting between people. What was the other part of the question?
Why are we stuck in a psychology of scarcity, basically?
Oh, that's our biology, really. It comes down to the human mind spent millions of years evolving in a situation where you had to go hunt for your food and you had to survive, and it was about me and my survival and my genes and pushing my genes forward, and the whole evolutionary psychology. And what we're trying to do now is we're trying to actively take a step away from that and take a hold of evolution ourselves and help move the species forward to something better.
Okay, one last question coming from the community, which I think you would really appreciate. Someone's asking, what is the best way to get involved with IAmTranshuman?
Well, you can go to IAmTranshuman.org, and I believe there is a link at the top. That would be really horrible if there wasn't. Let me check right now.
Impossible to reach
tell
out.
us. No, there is. Tell us your story.
Okay.
At the top.
Okay.
And there's an email there where you can email us. IAmTranshuman@uplift.bio. And you can get a hold of us there.
Fantastic, David. Thank you so much for your talk and for your time.